webinar. I just want to give everyone a chance to roll in. I'm doing this, I'm trying to do a habit of at least once a month doing a public webinar, so that's what we're doing here today. Otherwise, we hold this, or I hold this with subscribers for both Elliott Wave Trader crypto service as well as Seeking Alpha crypto service, Crypto Waves. So you may be joining, thinking about one of those services. I won't give any more marketing than that, but just letting you know that both have a free trial. And on Elliott Wave Trader, we actually don't take credit cards, so you don't even have to worry about cancellation. You just let it lapse. No one's going to be calling you, pushing you, or anything like that. It's not a hard sell. But glad you're attending. Just to give you a layout of what we do every week, I go through Bitcoin, long-term, short-term, Ether, same, long-term, short-term, and the same for Gbtc. And then we go through the Ether Bitcoin pair, which can be used if you're able to. If you're not American, you can trade that pair on leverage. There's a lot to be gained from that. We used to be able to in the U.S., but it's been knocked out. But you can use it also to make your choices about what your core holding is going to be, Ether and Bitcoin versus Ether and Bitcoin. As you guys know, strategically, I hold, kind of hodl at least a little bit of Ether and Bitcoin in kind of a long-term holding, and I use and for major swing trades, I use that pair for kind of swinging between the two. And then I also work grid bots. I went through in a few webinars back, which just trades constantly between the two, which basically prints money. Let's see, after that we go through weekly altcoin and equity charts that I put on a weekly report that I focus on the most. It is definitely right now a process of culling out what's junk and adding others that are better as this market tries to find a bottom. And so that those are a little bit of a revolving door right now, but we'll go through those. Then we only have 2 requests. We always open up the door for requests. Those happen on threads before the day before the webinar. So that also means no requests for charts in the question box. Please we don't do that. And so that's kind of the gist. I'll jump in with Bitcoin here. I'm going to go slow on the long term. I usually jam through it because subscribers have seen it over and over. But we have been looking for a 5th wave to end this major bull cycle that started in 2018, December 2018, and which should at this point take us up to 125K to a really extended 188K, although it would not be very normal to see that high unless we got some serious euphoria in the market. The problem is that we are trolling very key support here at 16K, and we still really don't have a reliable bottoming pattern, though it's possible that we're forming the beginning of a large diagonal to take us up and out of this area, which we'll run through in the micro. Breaking 16, I don't mind a spike through 16. In fact, right now we have an alternate projection down to 15 on the micro, which I'll show you. But if we sustain under 16K, what I mean is get some bearish consolidation of the 16, then it opens the door to this bear market being finished after a 3-wave move, and opens the door to anywhere between 10K and 3K. And so we really want the 16K to hold. I will probably just be adding to long-term cold wallets, but for sure, I have not been big into altcoins since 2021. And I would just, the little small positions I have would just get jettisoned, and I would use that money as cash to, which wouldn't be much, but because they're not very big positions, to accumulate Bitcoin much lower. So it's a very key spot in this market for sure, and would be I would call it a major failure. Well, I mean, you can call it a count failure, but it just pushes a completely different count scenario up here. And at least if you're only a short-term trader, you would take a lot of risk off. If you are, my battery supply just clicked on and off, so hopefully we don't have any disruptions. So it's pretty key. So let's look down at the micro and look at what we've got. It really is pretty terrible off the June lows. I warned as we came out of this rally into a 3-wave structure that, oh boy, this is going to get sloppy, and certainly that was correct. And sloppy to bearish is probably the best way of saying it. I think, subscribers now say, hey, Ryan, you just did some changes. So what I did overnight is really cull this down to the most simple way of looking at this projection. Any of this other scenarios that I had on the report last night still valid. But I like these the best with a little change I made. And basically, I want to say we are at an extremely key point. We continue to drop into this 19,900 level. And I did pull the 1 back because if we're going to hold a 2 now, we've got 5 waves down. We really don't have room for what I had last night, which is a B and C. I alluded to that yesterday, or late last night after report, I alluded to that with a continued flush down. But it's just completely unreliable to fit into B unless that B is very high. Because the C wave, and so so basically you can see ABC here for those that are not aware of the count. I had a B and C here, but we're just too low to expect a B and C. This does lower support a little bit when I put the 1 back here at 18.98. But we have to be really intellectually honest as we're continuing to scoot this back. There's no more scooting back allowed per se. Well, I can think of some other approaches, but to counting this. But we really need to hold 19K in this region, or we should fully expect for Bitcoin to drop down into that 16K, perhaps even down as low as 15 to 14, and that's expressed in red. The next, I do expect to bottom this area because we're completing 5-wave structure, but it just is, honestly halfway expected to be a wave 2, which is simply the way we see how it plays out. What is interesting here is that a rally here can be in 3 waves because, as you can see, my count here is a diagonal with the 4 crossing the 1. That's because it started in 3 waves back here. I can put the 1 here, 1 here, 1 here, but this is the only one that gives us reliable 3-wave corrections. And again, me having so many options speaks to the sloppy structure. Doesn't speak to an analysis method. It just means we have a ton of unclarity in the structure, and I certainly am starting to lean bearish with the move we've had over the last week. Okay, but anyway, a rally back to the rally starts. 2 is going to be 3 waves, and an A of 3 is also going to be 3 waves. So as we rally into here, I'll want to see a higher low in this region, which would be roughly in the 22-23 region, and that would pretend getting a 3rd wave up to at least 29.6 is the ideal fib, and then of course get a 4th and 5th. That would be great to see. Then we could, if we all see all 5 waves, even if in a diagonal, it means that June low should hold in high probability, but we really can't say that from here right now with the structure that we're seeing. We're here again with Bitcoin trolling key micro support. As I was looking at the action this morning, we're going to get another low out of this action. I drew these trend lines because they're sort of the extents of the 4s that we're getting. I drew one last night here, never took it out. It's not that I'm a fan of trend lines, but you can see very clear demarcation of the 4th wave as we troll the lows here, and looks like we're going to get another low, and it's probably going to go down in the 19.6. That is a super extended 5th on this 5-wave structure. So we really should be finding a bottom, or I have to start talking about being in a 3rd wave down. But we will be hitting support anyway very shortly, a very key end of support. So it's in a very tenuous spot. So that's not much to say about Bitcoin. I think, one thing that's interesting, last Friday as we flushed, we did get this highly reliable hash ribbon signal here with a buy right here on this dot. It happened right last Friday, sort of a week into it. A few things about this I just want to say. I'm just taking interest in this. I have never used it before, though. As you look at its history, it's extremely reliable for a good risk reward. So maybe it's suggesting that the 16K holds. But as I looked at the signals all the way back, and there are certainly a case for price wandering down after the signal, but it became a good time to accumulate. So take it how you will. My strategy is still the same. I've just been dollar cost averaging, but just doing it so tiny. And I've taken some short-term trades here and there, both long and short. As we break support, you know, I'm going to probably do a little bit. There's a, you know, my retirement account, I sort of fund every beginning of every month, so there'll be a sizable Bitcoin buy there. But other than that, really very tiny moves. Again, I love cheap Bitcoin because I've made mistakes in the past not buying cheap. You know, basically get run out of the market, and I just don't like making that mistake anymore. So my choice has always been to keep a lot of cash and then add as we go lower, but just keep it tiny so that I manage my cash well. And that has proven to be a very good strategy as into 2021. And then, you know, we'll see if that becomes a good strategy at this point in time. But I feel very different about altcoins. As Bitcoin breaks down, so shall altcoins, and some of them will never ever come back. We know that from past history and historical cycles. So anyway, very interesting. You know, obviously we haven't seen this signal prove itself. We can always get a signal that for the first time becomes a major loser, but it has never been in the past. It just had some price drift for a while before it really took. I should explain the signal for those that are new. This is basically shows where miners, this is basically measuring the hash rate from miners, and the red is a point where they capitulate, and then as the hash rate comes back up after capitulation, and the hash rate is measuring mining power, so some of the miners are capitulating by turning off their machines. As it comes back up, that it has classically become a buy signal, and I believe they put some ribbons, meaning moving averages, on the hash rates. So I haven't dove into it in a long time, but I used to know the signal, and I just haven't typically used it. But I watch it with interest now because I think it's very interesting that it's showing up near a major inflection point. See, I'll take questions as I finish Ether, and yeah, we're getting that new low. So we'll see if we get a reversal before the end of the webinar, because it is due now. We'll take a look at it as we move on. Looking at Ether, intermediate, has a little bit more room. Well, there's a lot of interesting things going on about Ether. It's come well off of the lows in June, such that I would be very surprised by a new bottom. In fact, we can more reliably call it a contracting leading diagonal, and it has lots of room to put in a three-wave correction. So it's very much potential that Ether keeps its low, and then Bitcoin gets a new little low below the 17,100 June low, and this one has bottomed already. So it's going to be interesting, this dichotomy between the two. We do have room down to 678 if we do get there, but I would be surprised, honestly, at this point that it holds, because it looks more like a B wave than a wave 4. Structurally, you know, basically another B wave, so it would probably go way below if we broke through the June low. But it looks to me like it's going to be hold, to be honest. And the target we have here is 10.5 at the minimum, and then 18,100 at the high end. So if anything in this market suggests we have a bottom, it's Ether. You know, the two are highly correlated on a day by day swing basis, but it's always possible that we get divergent low on one or other. And this right now, the divergent low is going to come from Bitcoin, it looks like, based on what we see. Primary wise, this, you know, Ether is very different. And then again, I can call this a completed contracting diagonal. It's actually pretty clean, both from a fib perspective and a structural perspective. I just have a channel on here, but you can see the contracting running through the 4. And we also have room for an A and B. So if, a larger A and B and C. I don't find this, I'm gonna even take this wave 4 off. I don't consider it reliable, though it's always a potential. You know, one thing I need to say always about the B waves is they can always break over to a new high, and then you end up, you know, even in Bitcoin, having plenty of room for a C wave down if you get a B over the previous high. And it's fairly common in crypto, and that would be an expanded flat or a running flat, depending on whether the C is lower or higher than the A. So it's always possible. I never count for it, but then it shows up in crypto a lot. So we could always get a strong bottom in this area, get a high B, even though it's corrective, get a very high B. They're fairly common. So anyway, you can see here that Ether has just started to touch its support level at the 382 retrace, so it has plenty of room for a deeper 2. And this is why I say, you know, Bitcoin could go down to the 14 to 15K level. And again, I'm okay with that as long as it spikes and reverses. And then Ether holds its 1-2 off of the June low by just dropping into the 150 region, which is key support. So all in all, you know, if you wanted to trade short term, scaling in this region, you know, as long as you, you know, you could buy a little here and take some off as we rally in the B. In fact, I may do that actually in my own short-term trading when I look at this. Of course, I have been collecting some MET micro futures here and there, pretty small position right now. So I may do a little bit of that this week and then take it off into the B and then see how the C goes and then accumulate in the C, because it actually looks pretty good for a swing trade. And the projection, I mean, projections are very temporal right now because we don't have a bottom, but this projection goes to 6. Now, I should say that, you know, we're looking for a move to 10. I would rather just see a, if we were really going to get another degree into 6K, it really suggests we're going to go into 18K. I don't necessarily find that believable, so I'd rather see this 3 extend. Of course, it's very common also in crypto to get a tiny 1-2 and a giant 3 that overextends most of our Fibonacci pinball projections. See that all the time, so it would be very normal for this to, you know, go up to 8, and then this 5 to go up into the 10 region, and that would make me very happy. Just from a kind of nerd out LA wave perspective to get that extension in the 3rd. So I think if you're gonna choose one for a short-term, more short-term swing trade, strategically speaking, I think Ether is better. And I will be doing that as well, retirement account included. But I think the question is whether I add some short-term trades here, and I probably will based on what I'm seeing, because I think we've got a ton of room and it remains one of the best altcoins in the space. Let's go to Gbtc real quick. You know, for people that are new to the webinar, this is old news to other people, but I am personally moving out of Gbtc. You know, we've got another sort of, you know, we got just serious decay in, you know, we've got a deeper and deeper discount in Gbtc versus the Bitcoin that contains, and the 4 has squarely crossed the 1. And if it crosses 5, we've got a clear 3-wave top. So that would take on a very different structure in Gbtc if Bitcoin also held. Very different structure from Bitcoin. Already it's very different in that the 4 crossed the 1. So I'm personally phasing out in my trading. I'm doing a little bit of accumulation to drop my overall cost, but by and large, I will be trading the ProShares Bitcoin strategy, even though it has roll decay, because based on futures, I will be trading that in future trading accounts, brokerage accounts, and not trading this anymore, because unless they turn into spot ETF, which is unlikely. So I'm covering it for now. I don't cover BIDO because because the best way to do BIDO is to take my support levels and multiply it by BIDO's multiplier. It's a lot better because we get too many gaps in BIDO after hours, and with that, the counts are strange and they look nothing like Bitcoin. So here we really reached the last level support. It's a pretty clean 5-way structure. So if I look at, you know, Gbtc, if Bitcoin can find a bottom here, then this kind of has a chance to hold. Of course, the problem with Bitcoin is that it may get a corrective rally and it may drop through. And in that case, 1269 breaking, if we start to see solid action below 1269 or 1265, I've been rounding it, then I expect 10. And I expect, you know, this 1-2 to, well, this 1-2 is starting to fail, but it needs to consolidate below it to confirm that it's failing. And that opens up the door to 10, which may find an alt bottom that should correspond to a bottom in, you know, somewhere between 14 and 16 in Bitcoin. And then lastly, the Ether Bitcoin pair. I'll take questions before I jump into the weekly charts. This chart's been, you know, of course, telegraphing the strength in Ether versus Bitcoin, but it is coming down in a good C wave. It's always possible that we get a sort of, you know, double bottom, so to speak, but that would just be a B wave and then another larger B wave and then get down to C wave. It's always possible because we do have 5 waves, but that may also be Arrow market. That may be the wave 1 of the C wave down. So I'll mark that. So we may get a little rally. I mean, it's interesting that this chart is suggesting that Bitcoin should be stronger, but because on the way up, Ether made so much headway where Bitcoin didn't, it doesn't necessarily give Bitcoin much hope of holding its June low. So anyway, but Bitcoin has been stronger in the very, very short term in these flushes, but just Ether has given itself so much room to drop into support where Bitcoin has not at all. I have this alternate A and B, but I don't think we'll actually see that play out. So it's interesting. I mean, so definitely Ether is the play right now. Of course, we can talk about merge news and all of that. I'm not trading nerd news. I'm just trading charts. But certainly we can look for cause in that if you like. But I find that pretty useless for trading. It doesn't matter to me. I trade the what's, not the whys. So, all right. So let's do some questions before I jump into charts. I see requests for charts again, reminding you guys that I don't take requests. Voice is completely garbled. Anyone else getting a garbled voice? I don't see anybody else indicating that. Let's see. I know it's more fundamentals or talk of BlackRock with Aladdin coming into space. What are your thoughts? No real thoughts. I mean, they haven't had any impact on the market yet. So I don't have any real thoughts on it. I'm just reading price action. So, you can say it's bullish, sure. But, like institutions buy very carefully, and a lot of times institutions have no effect on the market because they use algos to buy VWAP. And again, remember markets, I shouldn't say remember, a lot of people don't know this, but markets don't move up unless people cross the spread. Who crosses the spread? Usually it's retailers. So usually retailers do the heavy price movement because they're crossing the spread. Yeah, sure, some short-term traders that are institutions may cross the spread. What do I mean? I mean they're doing a market order or they're taking the ask. That's called crossing the spread. You don't move up price if you're just putting limit orders in, and institutions tend to use algos to accumulate below VWAP. That's just a very standard industry practice, so they don't tend to move the market. And institutions are extra careful about moving the crypto market because it's a very thin market. It doesn't take much to move cryptos. You could just move one exchange, and then all the algos on the other exchanges start arbitraging. So it's very too easy for institutions to create price reaction. So they use algos to accumulate slowly when price is drifting down. So I would assume BlackRock is accumulating right now, but they're doing it on a limit order, and it's not moving the market up. So I don't have any thoughts other than that. They're really not going to move this market. Let's see, NASDAQ and ES charts support an impulsive structure. I have no opinion on ES and NASDAQ charts personally. That's Avi's department. Avi doesn't cover NASDAQ, some of our other analysts. Where can I get the hash ribbon indicator for motive wave? Just type in hash ribbon, and it's the first indicator that comes up. I think there are a lot of other versions of that. So yeah, it's a good one to kind of study. So check it out. But yeah, I just type in hash ribbon, and then it's the first one. If it doesn't look like mine, ping me, and I'll find it for you and show you what I've got. But yeah, will you be going through Ether, Bitcoin as well? Done that already. So no one's, yeah, clear voice, loud and clear. If Bitcoin breaks 16K, doesn't mean the bull is over. Well, I would say it depends what your definition of a bull or bear, right? Like most people say the bull market is over at 69K, right? Most people say that. I have a slightly different definition when I think of things in 5-wave structures. So see if I have the chart for what happens if we break that. Let's see, intermediate. So we've been looking for a 5-wave structure off the 2018 low. What it means if it breaks 16 is it means we have confirmed a 3-wave top. And then what happens is we probably have a very large expand or a running flat or a larger expanded flat. So what does that mean? So let's, so I would say like certainly, well, what it would mean to me if we break 16K is that the bear market that started in 2018 never ended. That's the way I would define it from an Elliott wave perspective. So, that's why the, sort of what's a bull, what's a bear is not really the most helpful, to be honest. But what it would mean is that this is an A, a B, and then we're still in the C wave, and that C wave can go between 10K and 3K, 3K if it's an expanded flat. Sorry, yeah, expanded flat. And then if it's a running flat, means the C did not go as low was the A. It gets really strange in here because, you know, we're down 73%, which is sort of the low end of a correction in Bitcoin. You know, 85% becomes very typical. Certainly that would be, I think we're close to 85% we get below 16. Getting into the 90 is actually historically rare. It has happened, you know, 90% pullback, but like 65K or 69K it was. Anyway, you know, 90% is like, you know, $6,000. You know, that would be historic. Meaning, not meaning it hasn't happened before, but it would mean historic in terms of it's only happened a few times. So, so that's why I don't mind accumulating, but it just isn't for everybody. Again, I always say that, you know, I've been saying for many months that, you know, like I have, is it 5 assets: gold, SPY, cash, cash yielding positions, Bitcoin. Those are kind of my long-term balanced portfolio. So that's why I would be adding it to the cold wallet. And retirement accounts, it's just Bitcoin I don't need for a long time. Oh, the other thing I should say is if we get down to 10 to 3, it actually suggests that the next wave up is closer to 1 million because this is a higher degree fourth. So it moves up my entire, I'm missing data back here, but my entire long-term count up a degree. But like, mark my words, it's not going to be 1 million in a few years. You know, it's just, it just puts us in a higher degree fifth that's going to have to climb, and we would probably get a wave one of that 5 into the 125 region before another sort of so-called bear market that drops back down to 20, and then we would start probably a long grind up into the 7 figures level. That would take many years to do. So that's why I'm not shy about accumulating into the 10 to 3K region. It's just a big fire sale. Also, I don't remember exactly where the average mining costs, but you know, there is a tendency for this market to bottom as some of the miners hit bankruptcy, and we are getting very close to it. I think we're hitting a point where like Riot's probably going to go bankrupt, even if, you know, it's sort of hanging on by a thread. So there's some other miners that will probably go bankrupt. So there's a tendency for the market to bottom in that area. I mean, the hash ribbon signal is very related to, you know, putting miners under pressure. So that's also just something to note from a fundamental perspective. So anyway, that's the bull bear thing. You know, it's like it's very subjective term. So that I just wanted to color it a little bit more. Sound is breaking up. Yeah, I'm not doing anything with the sound. I'm not changing anything. So could be a bad signal, could be internet on your end. So yeah, it looks like it broke up for somebody, then it became clear. I'm not doing anything with it. I don't know what to do with it right now. What thoughts on timing to go above 100K? Well, you know, ideally we got it last year. I mean, I was one of those people that ideally wanted to see it last year, but until we broke, I think it was like 51K. I was like, okay, well, I got to call off 100, at least for the short term. I don't have any timing on this one because, well, I have just a basic problem right now, whether we bottomed in June. And that's just top of mind. You know, I can't do anything with timing until I know, you know, anything I do on timing actually is not terribly helpful because Elliott wave structure doesn't give us much indication on timing, except for guesses. But so I don't have any opinion. But right now the question is whether the June low is going to hold, and if June low is going to hold, we got to restart a reversal pattern that has, you know, supposedly happened since June, but really hasn't stuck. You know, hasn't clearly stuck. Now I'm getting me curious about, okay, we're getting another bounce off of that low. I'm watching this trend line right now as, you know, basically the reason I'm watching this trend line is because that's the top of our floors, and I want to get through, you know, both of these levels to indicate, you know, a low of sorts is in. Sorry, I just want to see that tangent. I want to see this progress as it goes because we're in an interesting spot here. Anyway, so yeah, I have no real answer on timing. Are there any miners you would hold? I will hold no miners long term. I think they're terrible business structures. If you show me a miner that knows how to hedge their production properly, like a gold miner, then I think we can start to hold them long term. But they just don't seem to be able to manage their business well. You know, Marathon looks better, so I'm certainly trading them right now, but they're swing trades to me. They are not assets that I would hold long term until, you know, because they just every time we're in a bear market, we look like they're gonna go bankrupt, you know, and that's because they don't hedge their production. They think that every time we're hitting highs, they think that we're just gonna go up forever. So that's the big issue with miners, and I just don't think they're just not long-term assets. And I expect each cycle will get another round of bankruptcies. Let's see, Ryan, this first 20 minutes, anything changed since your webinar? 27 July, 16K crucial to hold. Yeah, same. The beginning of this webinar, I talked about 16K needs to hold, and right now it doesn't look like it's not high probability that's going to hold. So, again, I don't mind a spike in reverse, like I said that earlier, but if we start sustaining below 16K, it's no good. Or at least, I mean, I don't say it's not no good for me, but I know a lot of subscribers are going to have a serious struggle with it. I will just be sitting buying the fire sale to a very tight, very little bits at a time. And sometimes my little bits are like $100. I sometimes sitting on the couch and I'm putting $5 in. Like to me, it's a very slow dribble in to add up to all my Bitcoin holdings. Let's see, short term. Oh, I assume you're talking about miners. Yeah, we'll go through miner charts. You'll get the picture on miner charts. We'll get there. We're going to go through the ones that I cover the most closely. All right, any other questions on those? Nope, doesn't look like it. All right, the first chart on the weeklies. The weekly charts they go through is ADA. This is going to get jettisoned most likely. We're breaking support here. I don't see a reverse. I don't see a reverse. I don't see Bitcoin going stronger. This one has a somewhat of a correlation with Bitcoin short term, not exactly, but I'm ready to dump my Cardano. This 50% mark here at 44. And also this 786 retrace of this move this is like the 16K in Bitcoin, and we did spike in reverse, but now we can't hold it. Now we've got a potential AB for this red diagonal, and it's just trolling. It's just trolling support. So I'm going to give it a little bit, like maybe a couple of days, but this one's probably got to get dropped. And that gives us a three-wave top in all of this so-called bull cycle. Yeah, I don't see anything really good out of Cardano, so it's going to be off of my radar pretty soon here. I'm not saying I'm doing action right now. I will post on the board when I take action. My position's small anyway. I'll just roll it over to Bitcoin or actually Ether in the situation. I'll just roll it over. BNB unfortunately didn't hold my minor support level further. You can see a double bottom. I don't believe in double bottoms, by the way, but double bottoms don't work. They rarely hold. So my take is that even if we bottom in this area, it's most likely a B wave before a deeper C. The good news about I don't trust this black count. It's slimly possible. It's slimly possible, but it would be better if we get a little bit lower, fall out of the channel a little bit more, and turn this into an ABC before I believe this 5. So it's remotely possible right now. I prefer the red, which was added this morning because I honestly believe we're going to hold the minor support level we had in the 283. Didn't hold over over the evening, and so it opens the door to 214. Again, when we get a BC, it's always possible that we bounce here and get a high B wave rally, and that can even bring the C up to here in a nice ABC, and then that would be a wave 1, 2, and it'll be off and running. The target for what is the target? I think it's 1400. Yeah, so since we got new subscribers, I'm going to go through the long-term charts a little bit more, but BNB is one of our stronger alts and does aim at 1400. This is the daily target zone, but it's figuring out whether it's going to hold that June low right now. There's plenty of room to support. Let's see. I think this is 112. I'd have to go back on all my fibs, but as I recall, BNB had some room for lower if it needs to go there. But yeah, but it's been one of the stronger ones that just now fell out of the channel and doesn't have a confirmed 5th wave. So it's likely 3-wave start to a diagonal if it's going to hold in this region, hold 214. Rune is one that now is starting to beg for another low. Let me look back on the daily chart and see where we're at. Are we in a danger spot? I mean, this chart's pretty good long term. Yeah, I mean, this has support all the way. Wait, let me just double check this. Yeah, all the way down to 90. So there's plenty of room, and it looks likely to at least get another low out of this BC move because it doesn't look healthy short term. I have one last level of support at 177. So, and then I'd have a this would be the same sort of hopium pattern in Bitcoin where we've got 3-wave start to a diagonal. But it's very much a hopium pattern. So this alt 2 down in the 95 to 90 region looks very likely right now. So that one's a strong breakdown case, at least short-term breakdown, not the long-term count. Whoops, sorry, being a little clumsy. I had all kinds of bugs with TradingView app. I don't know if you guys are having it, but all sorts of weird bugs that I need to complain to them about. We can have a high 3-wave start to a diagonal, but in that case, we've got 5 waves now, so we cannot say that as a 4. Sorry, I have not changed this count yet, but it needs to change. Whoops, geez, all these bugs in this UI now. I don't know if anybody's experiencing that. So anyway, support is 326, and because, again, we have 5 down, and I cannot do a reliable change of count. The question is whether it's going to hold after an ABC, but certainly this is starting to look like it could break down into the 170 region, which is the next fib down below. Looks that way, but this would have to be, we'd get a wave 2 and then an extension down. Aave, it's been one of our stronger. Oh, let's look at the long term on this for people that are new. My problem here is that this was the ideal fib for this 1212. Let's see, I'm losing my projections here. Let me do a quick fib projection for the third. So my issue with this chart, I probably will get out of this chart if it doesn't hold that level, because so this third should hit 61. So my yellow box is in the right spot, but not my labels. Sorry, everything's moved because I haven't gone here a long time. Anyway, so this yellow box here at 60 region, but if we break down that little support level, I'm going to get out because it's not reliable below this black line at 256, and it looks likely to drop down to 170. So that one is on fumes. And then Aave. So this is definitely one of my favorite alts. It's up there. Question is whether this holds. We have again, this is a lot like Ether in that so we are forming a 5-way A, so we probably are going to get a B and a C. Support is 60, and then this one has a target at the 22 region. The only thing I don't like about this structure here is that it has very weak confluence. The projection doesn't get us to 22, so it's possible that we get some morphing or extension or whatnot. But this move off the low is a little ugly, but I can call it 5 waves from a fib and structural perspective. Actually a full 5-wave diagonal. So that's good as long as it holds 60. So, but we've got 5 down here, so that should just be our A. And I'm going to take off the black count until I see an impulsive move out of here versus a B wave structure, which is corrective. So this is a favorite alt. Definitely have been adding to it, and I'm going to be adding. And actually, my retirement account allows it, which is great for me. So I'll be adding that as it drops. FTM, pretty disappointing structure. This red count does loosely qualify as a diagonal, but now we have 5 waves. Blue count is unreliable to me. Definitely this 5 waves could portend a drop into this lower 4. This 4 is not reliable down here. Below this 20-cent mark, it's unreliable. So the problem is breaking support at 23 makes breaking the lows at 20 cents highly likely, and that makes the entire long-term count unreliable. So this will be another altcoin that I drop. The target is $13, so it is a huge amount of skew. But if we break through 20 cents, or 27 cents, it's highly unlikely. No, not 27 cents. Sorry, that 27 cents is where it's at. 23 cents. So, in that case, I can call this a finished diagonal. So this one could be interesting in the next bullish cycle if it holds a wave 2 support, but that support's going to be like down at a penny. So I'll have no reason to stick in this one and stick with it short term. And then we'll see what happens in the next cycle. Metis, we've got a moon count. So let me talk about this moon count real quick. It targets $45,000. In this cycle, while Bitcoin goes into 125, I think the best we can expect out of this one is for it to reach 200 is likely. So it could be, so we got to 50. Yes, so we could see a diagonal up into, or impulse up into 200 to 400 region, and that's all we should see out of this bullish cycle before this wave 2. And then if this wave 2 holds while Bitcoin is in a major bear market, then this moon count can play out. So don't be trading for the 45,000 right now. Let's take it a level at a time. Question is whether it holds here local. And we haven't seen any altcoin other than Ether really follow through on its moon count. So I'm always surprised if one does, and we haven't seen any for a long time. Oh, BNB has as well, right? So anyway, so we'll see how this goes, but it looks to me like we've got a 5-wave A wave, so very similar pattern we're showing on everything. We do have room for support down to 1838, and if that goes another low below, from 11 to 9 is okay in the slower 2. If 18 goes, so that's fine from the long-term perspective, but it would have to be a reset of this entire wave 2. So it's not terrible. I mean, given all in all how high it's gotten and all that, this one's not terrible, but I just don't want anybody trading for that 45K. Let's take it a step at a time. Hbar, we've got a breakdown set up for sure, and very much in progress. So we should be dropping down into the 4-cent region right now. In fact, it may be that we have a 1-2-1-2 in here. So this may be, I'm just going to draw it. So no reason to do any ads in Hbar. And this doesn't break the long term. Man, so many bugs. It just gave me all 3 labels at the same time. It's just annoying. If anyone's having that, let me know. And if you've ever been able to fix it, but it just showed up recently. And resetting, restarting, none of that works. All right. And long term on this one, it has a fairly questionable 5-wave structure here. It is a moon count up to $41, potentially up to $199. But it's got to hold the 0.027. This one is like Metis in that we will probably, if we do find a bottom, should rally into 70-cent region. Still great skew, 10x, and that would be the case when Bitcoin hits 125K. I'm trying to correlate best I can, and then we'll see if it holds. That would be the 1-2 for the third. I haven't drawn it out, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the 2 would show up when Bitcoin drops out of 125K. Link definitely breaking down to new lows. So should drop into the 290 region. Both Jason and I have been pretty consistent with, except for my short stint with a bullish count, and then the target is 208, provided we come out of there. And it's fine as long as we don't break 290 sustained. So it's pretty good. So we're likely to get some altcoins that fall out, some altcoins that don't. So that's going to be that continued culling process we've been going through until we get a bottom. I don't care for this pattern right now in FTT. I'm giving you sort of a bit of a forced count here, but I do like the long-term chart. So we need 5 waves up into 36 to see that it's bottomed. Again, and then I should say too, we need to hold this B right here at 25. It's right there. So we're right at support, and it doesn't look like it's going to hold, although I can call that a completed 3-wave structure. So we'll see. And it has room to support down to 13, so that's fine if it wants to break down. If everyone doesn't know this, this is the FTX, which is just you're not buying a security, you're not buying ownership in the FTX platform, but I think international, it has some utility. If you own it, you cut some fees or something, I think. I don't know, someone could probably clarify. We don't have it in the US, but I do trade it on the Solana chain and DeFi. At any rate, the target is 124. So I don't mind a breakdown of this one. It's fine. So I would probably accumulate into that support level as long as it doesn't break 14K. I mean, it's actually really great risk to reward. And my position's really tiny right now. So I would take that. This is one of the few ones that I would take as an opportunity to accumulate. Matic looks awesome still, as long as it holds here. It's one of the better alts for sure. Still working out this fifth wave, which is fine as long as it holds 64 cents and then gets a fifth wave into the 120 region. And so this one looks beautiful, actually. I don't mind accumulating here in this one. I've got grid bots against Gbtc. Let's see what is going on. Oh, there's just minor counts. I'm gonna get rid of this for right now. Let's see, well, we need that, kind of need that. I'm not getting all of the structure. Yeah, there we go. All right, so need to hold 64 cents, and then we should get a fifth wave into the 120 to 130 region, and then we get this too. And this one has very, very good confluence. What is confluence? That's when 2 degrees line up for a target, makes a higher probability, and the target is 10.5. So with the potential of hitting 24, but usually they're on the lower end of these yellow boxes. So this one is a beauty and one that is one of my main altcoin trades. Just to, I think it's worth doubling back on what are my main altcoin trades out of the list I just gave you. FTT, Matic, Aave, and BNB are the ones I like the best. The rest are just kind of trolling with tiny positions, and then I'll add. I want to talk about 2 more that may get added. Doge, yes, Doge. Whoops, let me quit that. Doge is getting interesting. It's very much at an inflection point, and it may very well break down, but at least it's worth watching. And you know, Doge always has its day, right? I mean, Doge does a lot of surprises. So I have both a bearish count with this 1-2. Very reasonable, and it will drop through support, and I will have no interest in it if it does. And that's getting 5 waves, unless by chance it holds this blue box, which is not expected. You can see the very clear C ending diagonal, which looks unfinished, but it is possible to have the alternate wave 4 bottom here. If it turns and breaks over the circle 4 and forms 5 waves, then I will be trading this for upside with a target in the 3 region. So see, let's make sure that's right. Yeah, 3 region, maybe probably more like locally, more likely as low as 146. So yes, thinking about Doge again. I don't know if anyone was here when I called the top by the hour in Doge last year. It was beautiful. I have not been in it since, and it's finally getting me interested. But if it breaks down in this black count, then I will not be interested. So let's see what it does. I do have a Doge Bitcoin grid bot, kind of more for fun. It does actually print some pretty good Bitcoin, but I'm not going to be adding it as a main swing trade unless it breaks up in this wave, 5 waves, and then I'll buy the pullback after. Yes, Doge. Some people are laughing at me. I know it. Let's see. And the other one I think is getting interesting is Flux. I think I have some in my old KuCoin account, which I need to look. There's some of my dusty stuff in there. And the warning about this chart is that it is most likely 3 waves back here. However, it's been incredibly strong and potentially is trying for 5 waves off of this 2. And if the case, I would be accumulating in B cautiously if it gets, well, it's probably worth accumulating now if it doesn't get it, because not all A waves are 5 waves. We usually get them in 5 waves in crypto at key points like the beginning of a diagonal. This one, I mean, it's a moon count, but if it sets up in B, it's pretty reasonable to see the C up in from 17 all the way up to 79. So that's some giant skew. So, and again, it assumes a lot of things like Bitcoin hanging on to 16, or at least just spiking and reversing. So this is what I'm watching. I own a little from when we were following it more closely in the past, and we got out of it because it topped in 3 waves, but now it's coming back strong, and so we may at least, you know, I'll look at it from the op sheet perspective. We'll add it on the report. I call it highly speculative, but you know, look at its strength right now. Pretty interesting. Let's see, HUT, since we're going to miners now. So I find a lot of the miners charts pretty disappointing even in its latest swing. So again, I'm gonna remind everyone that the daily targets are really unreliable altogether with the breakdown below support in the wave 4s. There is an alternate where this is a big diagonal that's shown in blue. I think everyone wants me to turn them into red for the first alternate, but I don't find that reliable at all. Topped in 3 waves in wave 1 at best, now has 5 waves for an A wave, and must hold 160 and is running out of room. So pretty sad case here. So you know, it's fine for accumulating. I've got my small position that was left from the top. You know, basically at the top I cut and then had, you know, kept a little for the long-term stupid. You know, as I said earlier, the place that I made the big mistake in the last year was hang on to crypto equities too much. But anyway, I've been dollar cost averaging a little bit and scaling in and out. So I made a lot of little quick short-term trades on these guys. I showed you guys how I do that on a recent demo. Dropped my cost decent amount. I'm gonna see how this, I'm not doing much with it right now. I'm gonna see how this 2 forms, and if it forms, I don't mind making the swing trade with a little bit larger position. That's HUT, and then we always go through the Canadian one. We'll just hit it real quick. Support on this one is 207. I'll add the AB. I need to add the ABC. I'll add that offline so you guys aren't watching me do too much counting. Hive, let's see, Canadian version first is easier. I took off the red on the American version. The support is 481. This one, I can't tell. I really can't tell from this one. I'll look at the American one. It possibly is 5 waves, which means we're going to have to see an ABC, and it's got to hold 481. Actually, I probably, you know what, I can actually move because it unconfirmed my truncated view here. I can move this back legitimately, and so we can form an ABC. So I can move that support. So I'll update that for the weekly report and get that right on this chart. I think it's right on my Hive chart. So just notice, yeah, it's correct on my Hive chart with support at 350. Just double checking. Yes, it is correct. And it looks like we've got a 5-way A wave. I mean, just, you know, we're going to need to see a big, strong B wave bounce for that to hold support on the C wave down. So it's in pretty bad shape. SI is, of course, a chart that I love. Very, very, very strong. Everything is going right in this one so far. We've got, not only do we held support on the way down. I took off the blue box down just to use a smaller degree box, but we have confluence for the target at 300. So very, very good charts. Clean, I don't want to say super clean, but clean enough. 5 waves for 1, and then working on 2. And it looks to me like it's going to be a shallow 2 right now, unless it subdivides into a larger ABC after the 78 region. But ultimately, support is 59, and it's nowhere close to that right now. So this is pretty, and I'm in the accumulation stage for sure. Marathon, better miner out of everything. This is, you know, if you had to focus on mining dollars, this would be where to go. I find this one a little ugly, but it's pretty high and actually does have confluence with my target for 100. So again, when everything lines up on 2 degrees, it's super good. But this does look like 5, so we should get a B and a C. Again, you know, when you have a high A where it hits the 38, you don't know if you're going to be that breaks over the top. And then the C comes in higher, you know, in say the 382 to 50, maybe drifts a little bit into 61, or even is higher than the bottom of the A in a running flat. So this is a setup for either an expanded or running flat or zigzag, which is what I'm showing here with the low C. So we'll see how it shakes out, but it does look like it's 5 down, so that should only be the A wave in this correction. And you know, a lot of charts line up with just that 5 down being the A wave, so it makes a lot of sense. I think when we see so many charts with a 5 down A wave, it makes sense that this correction is going to go on for a little bit longer. You know, it may just simply be sideways through time. Galaxy has been interesting this week, but I don't care for, I was tracking the potential of 5 waves. It is remotely possible that this was a contracting diagonal and is 5 waves. It is tall enough fib-wise, so that would be like this. I just wish I could say it was reliable. It's possible that we go gonzo from here. So that would be the 2 in progress. I just don't find it the highest probability, but it may surprise here. And the next degree gets 24. Again, big lack of confluence with my daily target. So we'll see how that develops. So potential it's bottomed. If it does break through this break through that low, then we do have support at 526 before we have to talk again about black count, which brings it down into the 320 region. So interesting. Square, block, whatever we want to call it. I still call it square because it's SQ. Unfortunately fell down in such a way that the best, well, I can call it 5 waves if this is truncated. And that would mean that we're only in the A wave, but more reliably, I think we've got a 3-wave top, which I am calling, red means it's possible, but not reliable. So that would be, and then it has to hold this box at 62. So ideally, I mean, it's a pretty full ABC off of that high. So, ideally it does turn up. Coin, exceedingly sloppy. I mean, completely unreliable now, but I'm still hanging on to what I have. It really needs to find a bottom here at the bottom of the channel for this diagonal to play out. So again, it's red to be unreliable, but if it could turn here and get a 5th wave, great. And then we'll follow the wave 2, and then the push higher. And it looks like it wants to reach into the 400 region if it'll actually hold. So a lot more work to be done there. And then lastly, on the weeklies, Argo, another minor. Argo has one of the nicest long-term charts. The problem is the micro is not playing along. This is the London chart because it's the only one with all the data, and it's stuck support and has a target of 1077. Yeah, let's see. It's a little moony, a little bit of a moon count, so we'll see. But then the problem is the micro is not playing, and I do not see, I do not see, and this is the NASDAQ, a bullish pattern out of that at all. So I haven't been counting this since it broke that wave support. Definitely not going to be adding to it at all. So we'll see how it pans out. I wouldn't be adding to positions at all. Let's see, we've got got the Ether Trust, ETHE, and then Riot as the only 2 requests. And then I'll take questions and sign off. Let's see, Ether Trust. This one is interesting. At least that would be the contracting diagonal we see in Ether. I'm going to remind that this chart is constantly unreliable in terms of projections and whatnot. It just doesn't track Ether very well. And if you have a chance to buy real Ether over buying this thing, I own some of this, but I'd rather trade Ether any day. And we got a clear ABC, and then the 100 extension. So the A equals C is 988 to 179. Final support is at 8. So as long as we hold 8, we're fine. But it looks like we can drift down to ideally to the 10 at the highest, and then possibly down to 880 comfortably off of this ABC projection. And then Riot's turned very crappy again. I think it's a very much I haven't looked at the balance sheet in a long time, but I think it's probably a bankruptcy case. But I said that in 2018, and it didn't go bankrupt. It's just a very poorly ran business. However, possible 3-wave, wave 1, and if it does form support, it looks like 5 waves down in A. There's a theme around that. We've seen a lot of that, right? So as long as we get a high B and hold 495, then this count is possible. There is 0 confluence with the long-term target. So for me, this is just a degree at a time. I will get out of this one. I have a tiny position that I had in my Algo account for TradeStation, and I forgot about it because I usually just let the algos run on that account. So I'm just managing that right now and lowering my cost a little bit, mostly looking for an exit. And I will definitely get out if I see this degree at 25. I'll consider it a gift on that little position. If it starts to break 440, then I'm going to get out completely. I'll just take the loss. All right. Any questions now? And again, I'm not taking any requests. I've gotten done with that. Let's see. On Bitcoin, is primary count that we break 16? It's definitely primary below 19K sustained. That's the best way of putting it. The problem, again, the problem with saying primary is, what do you do with that, right? This is my issue with primary versus alternate. It suggests, if I say the primary is that we're going to 16K, naturally everyone trades that, right? And what you really should do is trade risk to reward setups. and we have a better risk to reward setup. Yeah, I haven't talked about a lot about strategy in this. We usually do strategy every single webinar, but this is a little bit longer webinar. So I want to make a really strong strategic point, because what I would get away from is relying on always trading the primary, and start to look at risk to reward setups. So the risk to reward setup here is long with a stop at 8. I would put it at 18,700, and then I would take profit as we get into a new high, or get up out of this region, and then the risk to reward for the red count doesn't start until we get close to resistance here, which is going to be up to 23.96. So as you get into the 22 region, you could decide to flip and hedge, or do a primary trade in this red count. But I would not be trading the red count right now, because the risk to reward isn't there. The risk to reward actually is better on the long side, unless we start to sustain through 19. But the problem, if we start sustaining below 19, it suggests more of a direct move to the 15 to 16 region, and then you're just chasing. So I would rather people get away from the language of primary, alternate, at least in respect to what they're trading, and start to turn over where the risk to reward is. Because if you're trading my primary account, yes, I think this is, I don't like calling it primary. To me, I think this is highly probable to go down to 15 right now. But to confirm it, we really need to start sustaining below 19. And if you were to start trading it here, you would most likely be jumping on short as a bounce. So I think you have a couple choices, whether you want to start to scale in long here, or do you want to wait for the bounce, make sure it's corrective, and then add short into 22. For me, I'm doing both. I'm doing a little bit of dollar cost averaging, and then as long as this corrective bounce into here, then I'm going to start taking some selective shorts as we drop down into the 15 region with a but I don't want to get my shorts on until I don't want to get my shorts on. It sounds like I'm getting dressed. I don't want to get my shorts on until I'm very close to resistance at roughly 23, although it's going to adjust when we have a final bottom, because then I'm getting a very, very tight level of risk on that short. Okay, so that's a better way of trading than saying, okay, I'm just going to trade the primary account, because there is no way to promise to you that my primary account is what plays out. That just makes no sense, because what I'm not doing here is predicting the future. What I'm doing here is taking reasonable historic price projections, laying them with fibs in ways that work using the LA wave theory. And at any given time, it involves interpretation. So it involves hard rules, which are set, and then it involves interpretation, which is based on experience. So I'm always trying to get people away from relying on that primary versus alternate language. I know it's probably more of an answer than you wanted, but it will make you a better trader. Let's see, lost. So those of you that are losing, coming in late or losing sound, for those that are subscribed, I will post a recording. If you're not subscribed, all I can suggest, if you want the recording, just sign up for the trial, and then no one's calling you, no one's bugging you, and you don't have to put a credit card in on LA Wave Trader. Seeking Alpha, I think you have to. And then you can pick up the recording. So like I'm not going to post a recording to Twitter or anything like that. So so I'll leave it up to you whether you want to sign up to just grab the recording and take off. I'm not offended at all if you want to do that. Let's see. What do you play for short BTC? I usually do MET. Sometimes I do the 3XS tokens on KuCoin. But usually I trade sorry, not MET, MBT. CME futures. I usually do that. Sometimes I take put options on Bido on the ProShares Bitcoin. I do that as well. In fact, I do a lot of option selling on Bido, because especially with all the chop we've gotten in Bitcoin, it's got some pretty profitable trades that way. From a strategy perspective, when you indicate that you're looking for an exit with Riot, what exactly do you mean? Would you consider dollar cost averaging? I've been doing that. I said that earlier. I've been now I want to be very clear about the dollar cost averaging. It's just me getting a very small incremental lower cost on a very, very small position. It is by no means a primary trade. If you don't have a position in Riot, I would not be adding. There's no reason to. This is really not a quality chart. I wouldn't be doing it in Hut. I wouldn't be doing it in Hive. If you want to put some money into miners, use Marathon. It is far better. That's not a recommendation. It's a better quality chart, both objectively based on fibs and subjectively based on price action and interpretation. So what I'm just saying is I'm doing a little bit of dollar cost averaging, and then to just manage a position that I have tiny. In fact, I only have my original position right now because I did sell out into this rally, but I'll add a little bit as we go along just to get a lower cost on this, and then I'm going to exit as this degree fills in. And I'm going to, I may not even ride it to 25. Like it is a position that I consider low value. So as it rides up into this 20 region, I'm going to be looking for exits. I'll probably be scaling all the way out to the third wave. And then, who knows, we'll see where I'm at. I may be adding in the 4 or not, because it really is, again, I want to emphasize this is not a quality enough trade to make if you don't have a position. It really is not a good one. So some people had really great sound. Some people didn't have good sound. It tells me that the recording will be great. So for those that had bad sound, wait for the recording. But again, the recording is only going to be posted to Seeking Alpha and LA Wave Trader on the crypto service. All right, I don't see any more questions anymore. We didn't go through strategy a lot. I mean, one thing I'll just say for those that are new to these webinars, I've spent a lot of time in the last 3 webinars talking about trading strategy using LA Wave theory and other methods. So we'll probably get back to that on the next webinar. I'll have to think about some new topics because I think that's everyone's favorite. So I'll always try to do a little bit of a tidbit. All right, it looks like we have no questions. So let me sign off, and then I'll get the recording up for those that are subscribed, and see you guys on the board that are there. So talk to you guys later.